So women allowed these clever strategies to de-energize them from continuing to work together to change the culture. So our masculine design culture has not changed much. It still glorifies war, it still worships money, still finds it very hard to find money for preschool education, still allows us to have the highest rate of maternal death in developed countries, and believe it or not, we women still tolerate a terrible, terrible rate of violence against women. On Memorial Day a few weeks ago, I was just appalled to see all the propaganda for war being played again. The flag was waved, the bands were played, and this was in memory of all the wonderful young men needlessly killed over the years. In all the recent wars, most recently in Iraq and Afghanistan, thousands and thousands of our men and a few young women were killed, and thousands more sent home with serious mental problems. Now, why did we let that happen? Women here should have been furious to have their children sent off to die. And they should have been equally furious at how we were devastating other people's children in Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan. We women should have stayed together. We should have gone on strike and refused to work when the Congress allowed George Bush to take us into Iraq. We all knew it was wrong. But without women working, the country would have ground to a halt. Do we understand that? If women quit working, the place would just fall apart. The war effort would have stalled. But women don't know their power. So instead of powerful protest, we had weak little demonstrations that only a handful of women supported. I know, because I was out on the street with my Women in Black anti-war signs on Alaska Way, and other women sprayed water on me as they sped by me in their cars. One BMW really went after me. And the powerful men in the military and in the government and in the corporations could ignore us. And guess what? They did. So 11 years of war later, the tragedy continues for Americans and for the whole Middle East. So women together could have been powerful, and we chose not to be. The old masculine individualism ruled the day. Too many women had been seduced into accepting the old masculine culture once again. They forgot about we and went back to thinking about me. Now, many individual women have risen into powerful positions, and I celebrate that. But while some of these women leaders are trying to change our dysfunctional culture in one way or the other, they are not backed up by large groups of women determined to make those changes happen. I want to see women organized again to make a real impact. We do have some very effective online groups like Code Pink and Move On and Now, and other smaller groups telling us what has happened. We are now much better informed than we used to be. But we have almost no large, powerful groups of women protesting the status quo. There is a great need for women leaders to organize other women and the good men that we love to insist that the country address our profound problems. But today, the very idea of women having the power to actually stop war and change the culture sounds hopeless. We are back to thinking ourselves powerless. But we are not powerless. And if we stayed together, we could definitely change what needs to be changed. I mean, we are half the human race. Let's keep that in mind. Together, but we have to be together. We are not powerless. We need leaders who know how to organize. A much needed skill. One thing that should be changed right away is the violence against women. When I read that an average of 1,000 women a year in the period between 2000 and 2012, over 1,000 women per year were killed by intimate partners. Can you visualize 1,000 women? I mean, just try to get your mind around 1,000 women. That happens every year. They get killed. This is incredibly high, way over any other developed country. I've traveled in many other countries. They think we're crazy to allow this to happen. I spoke up for the UN, and I was just swamped by other women saying, "What's the matter with the women in America? Are they lazy?" I had a hard time answering. Because the women here, they don't do much about it except put flowers out on the street that have to be swept up later. Now, why is this so? The answer is complex. But one reason is that in order to be accepted by the power structure, in order to get ahead, most women today have had to adapt the same way of thinking as the men. They've had to adopt the same way of thinking as the men. A kind of individualism and competition that is the primary characteristic of masculine culture. In shorthand, the feminine culture in the last 2 decades went back from we to me. I am 86 now. So I remember what it was like when the women's movement really cared about each other. The movement was far from perfect, but we were struggling for equal pay for all. We insisted on respectable pay for work seen as inferior women's work. I remember them telling us that elder care work, there was no problem with it being so poorly paid, because after all, they were just looking after old people. That really gets my guilt now. We even worked for affordable childcare for all women, and we lost. I fought tooth and nail for that, and lost. We were working for all women. At the same time, we wanted to get ahead ourselves. And we were working for men who were being taken away to be killed. Now today, many women have a goal to break the glass ceiling, to be on corporate boards, to get a top-flight education from fancy universities. A couple of CEO women are now in the 1%, and many fine women are in powerful positions in politics and other positions of influence. And that is wonderful. I celebrate. And some of them do use their influence to speak up on behalf of women. And I really appreciate that. But I want to hear them speaking up against war. And I want to hear them working to bring more equality to the 99%. I want to hear them loudly denouncing violence of any kind, but especially against women. I want them to use their visibility to challenge all women to know how powerful women could be if they work together.